Okay, well, good afternoon and welcome. I am Rochelle Levan, the Landscape Success Program Chair with the Fort Bend County Master Gardeners. Thank you for joining us for the Landscape Success Online Program. This program was created by the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service in Fort Bend County, along with the Fort Bend County Master Gardeners, to help you create and maintain a beautiful home landscape. We've got a great program lined up for you today, shade gardening ideas and tips. As part of this program, our presenter may refer to various source materials or websites, but don't panic if you can't catch them in time to write them down. All registrants will receive a follow-up email with a recording of the class, as well as all links to websites or resources mentioned. The follow-up email will also include a QR code for a survey of the class. The QR code will also be at the end of the presentation. Please be sure to fill out the survey, as we will use the feedback to prepare and improve for our future classes. Also, if you have any questions during the class, please enter them into the group chat. Questions will be answered either during the presentation or at the end of class. Today, I have the pleasure of welcoming our presenter, Fort Bend Master County Gardener, Suma Mudon. Suma is a passionate gardener. She moved from the East Coast and became a master gardener to learn about Southern gardening. She decided to quit her law practice to pursue her passions. Suma has been a master gardener for about 10 years. She has advanced training in Texas superstar plants. Her passion also led her to become a garden designer, and she loves to find unique and native plants for her clients. Her other hobbies include world travel, sharing and educating about essential oils for health, teaching yoga for specific ailments, and pursuing all things beautiful for wellness. She believes in the adage, self-care is the best healthcare. We're so excited to have Suma here today. So Suma, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you for that nice introduction. And thank you
Yeah, we
all
should not
for
be on.
coming for this class. Probably you have attended the other classes either this year or in the previous years. And every year there's something new, and I'm sure that you can learn something that you haven't learned in the past. So today's topic is shade gardening. So I'm sure we all have trees especially in the front yard, because builders do put trees, especially if your house is old construction. And most of us struggle on how to garden under those trees. So today I'll go over the basics of shade, like the varieties of shade, and then also share several plants that can do well in these conditions. So some plants probably are very new to some of you, and some plants may be very familiar. So let's get started. If you have any questions, like Rachel said, you can put them in the chat, and at the end of the talk, if there is time, you can unmute yourself and ask more questions. So Rachel will be running the questions by me, as and when she feels fit. I don't mind answering during the talk. So, but just keep writing your questions down. Thank you. So just a couple of words about Texas AgriLife Extension and Master Gardeners. So this is a county-based outreach of Texas A&M University. And as such, we have access to terrific database of knowledge and research about horticulture. So the main focus of this AgriLife Extension is outreach and community educational programs. Most of the programs are free, and we have online, and also we have on-site classes. So for any kind of gardening, we need to go through the basics first, because if you don't spend money on these fundamentals, you are wasting money on buying the plants. So that's my deep belief, because I have gone through that, and I have lost some plants, and I have learned by trial and error. So you can benefit from that learning. So let us see what kind of soil do we need for the shade gardens. So like any other garden, we will follow the earth kind principles, like which the the best practices in gardening. And the first step for any gardening project is soil. So soil preparation, and especially yeah, it's even more important for shade gardens because these are under the trees, and the tree roots are, most of you are familiar with this oak tree roots, and these roots are also competing with whatever you plant there. So you need to pick plants that have shallow roots and that don't need too much of nutrition from the ground. So most of us have clay soil in Fort Bend County and most of the Houston area. So adding some sand to the planting mix will help with drainage. It's also because of the tree roots, it's better to build raised beds, but again, make sure that you're not cramping the roots. So a lot of people put hills against the tree base that will suffocate the roots. So give space around the roots, but build up the beds around it. The next fundamental thing is water. Um, I don't have to tell you, just look out of the window and it is 95 degrees. So it's going to be 95 degrees for the next 3 months, maybe hundreds also. So even though it is shade, the plants need water. And there are, as we talk, probably in the next few slides, we will know about a few things that can actually help us retain more moisture. But make sure that you have a good irrigation system, either above ground or drip irrigation for your shade garden. The third one is compost and mulch. It is extremely important to add some organic matter to enrich the soil. So since we have clay, we need to work some organic matter so the soil will have the nutrients. And once you have done that, you can add more like food, like fertilizers and all. So the third one is mulch, and we talked about how to conserve water. So mulch will help us to conserve water, retain moisture. So there are a lot of options for mulch, and also the other thing that mulch does is it will help us, prevent some weeds. So the lot of mulch options are there. It includes pine needles, pine bark, native hardwood mulch, just rotted leaves, or compost. So compost it serves dual purpose because it adds nutrients as well as retains moisture. And some people use colored dyed mulch, and I personally don't use it because it contains dye for the color, and I don't like that for my plants. But it's totally optional. So the fourth one is fertilizer. Uh, any kind of plant will benefit from occasional feeding, either periodic, occasional, depends. So if you're doing a vegetable garden, you may be feeding more because it's out in the sun and you want more produce from it. But if it is a shade plant, you are mostly feeding the foliage. So based on that, pick some fertilizer. So some of the plants I use are Osmocote, Microlife, and Epsoma, because I mostly do organic gardening, but it's totally up to you. So how many kinds of shade are there? When we say shade, it's very confusing because is it part sun or part shade? Both are similar. So let's go over these definitions of the shade. One is deep shade, and then medium shade and open shade. We'll see what each of these is. So this reminds me of places that we hike, like maybe the forested areas where you're walking under dense trees. So this is deep shade. Okay. So in this deep shade, there are some plants that still grow. And like I mentioned here, ferns, ivies, and Aptidistra, which is cast iron plant. So all these still grow and thrive in deep shade. So it's very the other day I saw somebody's front yard. This was in Dallas. So she had this huge trees in the front yard, and she I think planted ferns, but she also had a nice bench, and around the bench she planted she placed some pots with impatiens. That area was like such a nice. It looked like retreat. So with shade, there are a lot of things we can do. and deep shade is found under dense low branch trees like I talked about. So mostly if it is deep shade, you can grow mostly foliage, and it's difficult to grow flowers. Again, another example of deep shade. And you can see the ground cover. It thrives under deep shade. So medium shade, what is medium shade? So medium shade is either the branches are high, so the sun is still flowing through the branches, or the branches are not that dense. So it's like kind of filtered, but not more than filtered. It is more brighter than dense shade, and it is less brighter than filtered shade. So that is medium shade. So there are a lot of shade-loving plants which we will go over, and this is one of the most classic, which is impatiens and begonias. You can see the begonias in the back. So open shade also, it means like it's partial or intermittent, like means some parts of the day it is like it has more light, and some parts it is more shade, like under a high canopy of a tree, like that. Then there is this low light where you have this pergola and you have this dense vine, and you still get some light, but not much. So probably the plant on top of the pergola will get light enough to flower, but not under the pergola. So this is similar, but again, that was it is wisteria, and this looks like grape. So both are deciduous. That means they are not evergreen unless you are in zone 10 or whatever. So we'll touch upon this in the next few slides, how the same area may behave differently in different seasons. So open shade. So open shade means there is some sunlight, but if you look at that, the back of the plants have shade, and the roots are in shade, the heads are in sun. So this is like an open shade. So dappled shade is like, it's coming through the branches. Maybe the branches are not that dense, they're open, and you are not getting hit by direct sunlight, but you are getting like filtered sun. So that is dappled shade. And this also happens on the west side, because that's when the sun is setting, and you may have, depending on how high, how dense the trees are, the sunlight may be penetrating through those trees. So like we talked about, there are a lot of gradations of shade, and so we need to figure out what works under these shades. Are there any questions so far, Rachel?
No questions yet. Thank you
Okay.
for checking.
Okay, all right. Okay, so like we talked about before, the same area may be shady in summer, but sunny in spring, and like in winter. So same, my front yard has two big oak trees. In winter and spring, there is a lot more light. So the plants under that may be, if there is no freeze, I mean, so they may behave differently than in summer. In summer, the branches cover the area, so there's more shade. So it is difficult to visualize the various conditions that happen throughout the year. It's also difficult to visualize the full grown size of the plant, how it behaves. So there are so many factors that we need to take into account before we come up with a plant palette, either for shade garden, sun garden, front of the border, middle of the border, or back of the border. So there are so many things. So the best thing would be for you to sit and make a like, maybe you can put a chair in the front yard, in your front porch, look at the yard, and then make notes. Okay, what is happening where? For example, in my front yard, one side gets more sun, the other side doesn't get as much sun. So There's no way I can like plant the same plants on both sides. I have to mix and match various different plants. So that's where the design, garden design comes in. And then there is borrow shade. So your ad may be in full sun, but then you have your neighbor's tree, which is branching over your yard. I have seen this time and again. People have huge trees, your neighbors, and the branches will come on to your yard or sometimes even to your roof. So you need to take that into account because they may or may not cut their branches. If it is a full grown tree, it's an old tree, they don't want to deal with that unless it is going to be dangerous for your roof. I don't know if we can really ask our neighbors to either thin out the branches or cut back the branches. So if you have that borrowed shade from your either from your neighbors, or sometimes it may be that your fence is very high, so it may like cast more shade during some parts of the day. So you need to take that into account and see what's the best thing you can do in that area. So our climate, this is very interesting because um, the same plant, I talk about this in a lot of my classes, the same plants, especially in Texas Superstar classes. So the same plants that flourish in full sun in cooler climates. So their sun is for shorter duration, maybe just 2 or 3 months a year, and their sun is not as strong as ours. And the same plants that may flourish there, they may need more shade here. So for example, like I'll give here, the example is Japanese maples, but I don't think we can successfully grow Japanese maples here. But my experience with this kind of scenario is clematis. So clematis grows extremely well in the East Coast. It's abundant blooms, even in summer, because the summer is very short and the summer's heat is not as hot as ours. So here, what we need to do for the same plant is put the feet in shade and the head in sun. So how do you do that? You can do that in various different ways. One is maybe you can like put the trellis crossways and plant the plant in shades, but keep the trellis towards the sun side. The other way you can do is when you're planting it, maybe you can cover up the roots of the clematis with either protective mulch, or maybe I do it with broken pot pots. So you just cover it up, and that will keep the roots cooler, but it will still get the sun. But even then, the plant will be scorched in our full summer. So keep that in mind. We need to provide that part. Like sometimes you will see a lot of plants. They say it loves some afternoon shade, because afternoon is the time when the sun is really intense. So even like for people, they say don't go out between 2 and 6, because that's when the sun is really at its fullest. So you need to keep that in mind. Maybe the plant will be more productive, produces more blooms if it has some afternoon shade. So think about it. And this is one way of experimenting. So if you're not sure how the plant will behave, 1 year, put the plant in a pot and keep moving the pot and see where it flourishes. And then that is where you can plant it next year if it is a perennial. Of course, if it is an annual, then that's it. You are done for the year. And this is one example of scorched by the sun, too much sun. So hostas are, it's a very classic shade plant here for us, whereas in the other parts, in the cooler climates, they can grow in full sun. They thrive. They have like huge leaves and they're so intense colors. It's beautiful. But here we have to plant them in shade. But sometimes, like I said, if the sun is piercing through the branches, maybe that's enough to burn the leaves of the hostas. So like pay attention to that. Maybe you need to move it to some other place where there is like a part shade. and experiment with color. Let me see what is on the. Okay, should I answer this question now? Rachel, you want to run some questions?
Yes, Suma.
Okay.
Yes, so one question was the area leading up to the front door gets about 2 hours of direct sun in the Texas heat. And would that be considered full sun? And then some examples of plants to plant in this area.
Okay.
And I
So
just
that-
kind of put a
Yeah,
little
yes, go
info
ahead.
about the different.
Okay. So I wouldn't consider that full sun if it is 2 hours of sun, especially the morning sun. Morning sun is the weaker part of the day. So as we go through the plant, I have a long list of plants to go through. You can take pictures, or you can, write down, there are a lot of suggestions for plants for those areas. Anything else?
That's all right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So experiment with color again. This is our favorite winter activity, right? Like looking through the catalogs and garden books and start dreaming about our gardens. Um, and again, like you have to, whatever the catalogs, most of the plant catalogs are for northern climates. So we need to tone it down for our area. So one thing to remember is in shade, in sun, the color is highlighted. It shines because of full sun. But in shade, the color is not like readily noticeable. So the best colors that do well in shade are whites, blues, and yellows. So and also like planting them in groups that will bring the color more into light. Of course, brown is a color because you can see as we talk how you can create more interest with uh, colors that are not really colors that gardeners go for. And you can also create a lot of interest with materials like rock, mulch, and plants, and all those things. Like I mentioned about my friend's garden in Dallas, you can create that nice, restful, retreat-like space if you have a nice shady area. So this is one example. You can have all these plants in part shade. And let us go over some plants. These are very commonly available plants, impatiens and begonias. And very interestingly, now they have bred like varieties in these plants. Previously, these used to be only for shade, but now you have full sun begonias, you have full sun the impatiens, which are called sun patients. So there are these plants available for both shade and sun. So you have a lot of options, many options to add color to your shade gardens. Of course, we talked about hostas. There are many hostas, many leaf textures. And the one thing about hostas are bulbs, so they actually multiply. And every few years, you can actually lift up the bulb and cut it and either share it with friends or plant it in other places in your garden. So you'll get more plants. And also plant shapes. So when you add textures and shapes, you can see in this picture in the back, you can see Ligularia, which is the tractor seed plant. And in the front, you are seeing like a grass, and then you see a hydrangea. So you're mixing a lot of plant shapes and also the shapes of the leaves. So this will add interest. So let's talk about plants. So this agapanthus, it's a very common plant. White and double color is not that common. The most common color you see is the light blue, but now there are this bicolor and also the white. And these actually do extremely well in part shade and full sun. So I have them in both situations in my house. And these look really nice because the flower stalk is tall and you can see the color from far. It's a great plant. And the leaves, as you can see, are very glossy green. And ageratum is also a great shade plant. Some of the plants you will not find in regular nurseries. Some of the nurseries that you can try are, I didn't include the names of the nurseries in this presentation, but there's a nursery called Joshua's in Heights area and Buchanan's. Of course, Enchanted also may have in our area. So you can take pictures of these and try them out. Of course, you can also order from catalogs. So this is something that is, I haven't seen many people use. The one on the left, it is called Milk and Honey, Crinum Lily, and that is in part shade, so dappled shade in my front garden. The one in the middle is in full sun, and the one in the end, the white lilies, that is in full shade, and it blooms like for a long time, many weeks in early summer and early to midsummer. It keeps blooming, and also it blooms in fall, and it multiplies like crazy. So I have shared it with many people, and this is a great plant. And all these lilies have great fragrance. So if you want to note down, there is a company called Southern Bulb Company, and they specialize in bulbs for our area. Not only this, there are a lot of bulbs, other bulbs. They have bulbs for 52 weeks. Each week, you can plant a bulb that blooms in our area for our area, Houston, Fort Bend County, and then the South. So that is a good place to buy bulbs. They generally keep having sales, and these are great plants to have and add some fragrance and flowers to your shade garden.
Suma,
Yeah,
what is the name of the full shade? Crinum? Crinum?
uh, this one I have to look it up, but if you go to Southern Bulb Company, you may see it. So this I remember, the wine Milk and Honey. Oh, I
Is
think
it
it's
Mini
Milk and
West
Wine.
Indies?
Milk and Wine, that the
Oh,
first one. This one I have to see. I don't remember off the hand.
thank you.
Yeah, sure.
She asked if it was Mini West Indies. Does that ring a bell?
Mini West Indies? No, it doesn't ring a bell to me. So
I have
begonia.
one more question. I'm so sorry, Suma. Do you want to answer one more question
Yeah, sure,
while we're
sure.
here?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, question about fruit trees. So west side fence provides shade and backside of pergola. Is it too much shade for fruit trees? They have a young persimmon tree there, wondering if it would fruit there.
Uh, it's on west side, so it gets mostly morning sun and morning to afternoon sun. Yeah, I think it should be fine there, and but make sure that persimmons do grow big. Make sure that it has space around it for the canopy. Mostly the branches are a little weeping, so it needs space to grow. Otherwise, I think it can tolerate that area.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else?
Not at the moment.
Okay, all right. So begonias, we talked about begonias, and this is one plant that is heavily used by landscapers because one, it is heavily bred by plant breeders, and now there are several colors like pinks and reds and whites in begonias, and also there are dwarf varieties, and there now you can get taller varieties, and you can get for shade and full sun. So begonias are very versatile, and you can add quick color in your garden. So you can use the taller begonias. You can also mix them with other container plants to create interest. They definitely would enjoy afternoon shade, in my experience. In even the begonias that are supposed to do well in sun, they seem like they are, they get some sun damage. The leaves all curl up, they brown up, and things like that. So if you want to use it, you can do a border with begonias, or you can just add a mass of color, pop of color in your bed. So it's a great plant. And caladiums. So caladiums are also like very popular, and you get so many varieties in caladiums. And most of the times I see caladiums come back after freeze, um, unless it is like really, mega freeze. So, and also caladiums have the habit of multiplying, and they may pop up in other areas of, means close by, other areas of the yard, and they are useful both in containers and also in the ground. And you get so many colors. It's easy to buy the bulbs in the fall. Most of the box stores and also the discount stores like Sam's Club, they sell bulbs in bulk. So if you have a big area that you want to plant, it makes sense to buy in bulk. If not, you can order them online as well. So caladiums are also very versatile. And this is one of my favorite plants. It's easy. It adds so much color. There is every year they're coming up with so many different color combinations. So coleus used to be a very heavily shade plant. Now they have sun coleus. So you can plant it in full sun. You can plant it in part shade. You can have like tall coleus. You can have short coleus. Look at that color palette. So you can mix and match, and it's a great plant to plant with container plants. And one of the coolest things about coleus is you just when you start seeing flowers, actually the flowers attract bees. So if you want to plant some around your vegetable garden, this will be good because you want pollinators. But once you start seeing the flowers, if you pinch off the flowers, then it will get more leaves. And also, if you pinch off the top part of coleus and stick them in water, within 3-4 days, you will see roots. So it's so easy to propagate coleus. And this is one easy, like a low hanging fruit for you in winter. Maybe you just snip off various coleus branches, put them in water, and once you see the roots, stick them in pots and save them, overwinter them, and you are already ready way ahead of other people when spring comes, because you have fully grown coleus to plant in the ground without having to spend another dime. So that way coleus are very economical and very versatile, and great plant both for shade and part sun. So columbine is a Texas superstar plant, and you do get various colors of columbine. And I see this regularly at Lowe's during like late spring. A Texas superstar, if I didn't mention already. And this is, look at those colors, so like cool colors, like blue and white. This is a great plant to have in shade garden. And you can also notice the mulch around the plants. So that mulch will keep the water retention, the moisture, and keeps the plant roots cool in summer. And columbine is perennial, so it will come back. Any questions?
Yes, let's see. Agapanthus and shade begonias. I did answer it, but how many hours of sun can they handle max?
So agapanthus seems to love morning sun and after a little bit of afternoon shade. And if it is in dappled shade, it does fine. So throughout the day, it can be in part shade. But if you are going to plant it in sun, make sure that it has afternoon shade. And begonias, like I said, there are both for sun and shade. So depending on the variety, I would still say, given our extreme heat, they would also appreciate afternoon shade.
Another question about drift roses. Someone has drift roses planted under the crepe myrtles on the west side, and they seem to be struggling.
Yeah, I wouldn't plant drift roses under anything. Um, Actually, if you look at Antique Rose Emporium or any other rose breeders catalogs, they do have a couple, two or three for shaded areas, roses, but roses need full sun, and they will thrive in full sun. And drift roses, if you put them in full sun, they will actually spread, they'll become really dense bushes, and they will give you more flowers. So you can, the more you deadhead, the more flowers you'll get. Of course, roses also get some diseases, which is not the topic of this talk, but I think they will not do well under trees at all.
Do you have a good online company for caladiums?
Caladiums, you know, the couple of times I ordered are through a garden club, like Sugarland Garden Club. These garden clubs, because I'm a member, so most of you might be members of the garden clubs. They send out, they do fundraising, just like we do, like Master Gardeners, we have the plant sales. These guys have bulb sales. So that is one like place I buy from. There's also Houston Bulb Mart, which is run by Houston Garden Clubs of Houston. So that's a huge organization. It's one of the oldest. It's like established in 1931 or something like that. And they have, every October they have a bulb mart. It's run in one of the churches in, I think, off of 610, that loop, I think somewhere there. And I bought a lot of bulbs from them, and that's a good place to buy bulbs.
And columbines, how long do they flower?
Columbine flowers only in spring. It's not a long bloomer. So most of the perennials don't have really long, season of blooming. That's why you need to mix and match. You need to plant something then that flowers every few months. That way you'll have something showing up in every season.
Okay, and in a question about astilbes. Do you have,
Yeah, astilbes, somehow I keep seeing them, but I have never tried them. They are supposed to be for shade, and I don't have personal experience with them. The only place I see them regularly are a nursery called Frank's in Richmond. Richmond, or yeah, Richmond, not Rosenberg. So I haven't tried them, but they are supposed to be for shade. Yeah.
and that's it.
Okay. So in this picture, you see the elephant ears, colocasia. This is a quick way to add tropical interest to your yards, and this thrives in part shade. If you have gone to places like Hawaii or any wooded gardens, you see these things, these plants under the trees. And there are so many varieties in elephant ears. They are small, they are big, they are huge, and they are green, blue, black, so many varieties. But if you plant the normal, like the usual common variety of elephant ear, it may become invasive and it may be difficult to get rid of it. It's like canna. If you have cannas, you have cannas. That's it. You cannot get rid of canna. So it's elephantias also is like that. But one option may be to plant it in a big pot, to if you want to add that pop of tropical look to your gardens. So ferns are like a very classic shade plants. There are a lot of there are hardy ferns. So when you buy ferns, make sure that you ask the nursery whether this is hardy or not. Otherwise, you see the Boston ferns. All these companies sell them, like Lowe's, Home Depot, or even Costco and Sam's Club. They all sell Boston ferns in these nice hanging baskets. They look beautiful when you buy them. They're full, and in a few months you'll start seeing the bare stems. So make sure that when you buy ferns, they are hardy. They can be planted in the ground, and these will do extremely well under trees. I have several under my trees in the front yard, and they are they are not like very. They don't spread that fast. At least the varieties I have, and they provide this nice interest with the leaf texture, and also there are color variations in ferns. So there's Japanese painted fern, there is this ostrich fern, various ferns. So this is a great option. And this is one thing that I just totally am in love with. Gingers, if you have a shade area, you must get gingers, because these are, look at those, this is, uh, so the gingers and calatheums, this is peacock ginger, the one on the left side with the little pink flowers, that is a peacock ginger. And you will see in the next slide, calathea. So they look similar, but slightly different. And these two are gingers, the red and the pink. So these grow extremely well in shade. And there's also the common ginger, which is called the butterfly ginger. And it is tall, it has white flowers, and so totally fragrant. But the thing with gingers, again, this adds a tropical look to your garden, but not these two that much, but the butterfly gingers, they spread like crazy, and they are tall. So you need to put them in the back of your bed, and also just create enough space for them. Or when they spread, you need to pull them out and share it with your friends. So gingers are, when they are not blooming, they have interest with the leaves, the nice long leaves. And when they are blooming, they have beautiful, like unusual flowers. So great plant for shade. Hydrangea, I have a love-hate relationship, because moving from East Coast, I tried a lot to grow hydrangea. They grow like crazy, like they are like almost, I have seen hydrangeas which are 10 feet and spread also like 6 or 7 feet. And they bloom like crazy. But here it is so finicky, and you have to find the right space. Like, yeah, here we definitely can't plant them in sun. And if you're planting them in shade, they do need some sun, and they need that acidic soil. So you need to come up with that combination of the right place, the right soil, and the right light. So it is very difficult to get that, but once you get that, they are perennials. They come back every year, and you are blessed with these mop heads. There are a lot of varieties in hydrangeas. One hydrangea that does much better for us in South is oak leaf hydrangea. So the oak leaf hydrangea also tolerates some sun, and it is like more like taller than, these are like shrubs. Oak leaf hydrangea is like a plant. So it has also, the flowers are like panicles, like it's long, elongated, not like this mop head. So those actually do much better for us than these type of hydrangeas. So you can experiment. You're welcome to do that. And if you're successful, you will be one happy gardener. So this is something indigo ferra, pink indigo. Most of the nurseries are selling this now. It's a great shade plant, and it also like pops up in various places. So you do get, if you plant one plant, next year you may get 3 plants. And it has this nice delicate pink flowers. So it's a nice perennial plant to have. And probably you can find it in the nurseries I mentioned, any Buchanan's or Joshua's, or I don't know if I remember if I saw that in France, but Enchanted has the shade garden area, so you may find it there also. Great plant. Anything I need to answer?
Yes.
Okay.
Give me 1 second.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Okay. So somebody asked about warning or the best way to spot and avoid poison ivy and poison oak. Do you have any comments on that?
Is Nancy Schaefer here? Maybe she can answer that question.
Nancy Schaefer.
Nancy, are you here? Can you please answer that question, please? Okay. I also don't know very well how to identify. I was told that it's a three-leaf
Yeah.
option, and but I am not really. So far, lucky me, I haven't come across that in my yard, so I'm not sure.
Yes, they say leaves of 3, let
Yeah,
it be. And
yeah,
it means like from basically one stem. So you have your stem and then there's 3 leaves
yeah.
on it and it's kind of ridged on the outside of it.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's really actually very hard to spot because it looks very similar to leaves,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
I usually count 3. I get very few, but when I do, I kind of pull my phone out and I do the Google, like you
Yeah.
can do the Google search and I'm
Yeah.
like, because I don't want to touch that. So that's
Yeah.
another option. Remember, if you have Google, you can actually just take a picture and through Google on an app, on your app, and it will literally pull up everything about what you've just taken a picture of. So that's actually, I don't know if you do it, Suma, but I use that all the time in my garden.
Yeah,
Pests,
I use both
everything.
Google Lens and also iPhone has Plant ID. So
Oh,
when you
okay.
take a picture, the little I button will be circled, and if it is animal or plant or flower, it will come up with an ID. So that also
Ooh.
is quite accurate.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know that. Yeah, and Google
Yeah,
Lens. I couldn't get
yeah,
those words out, but yes,
yeah. So
Google.
both work well.
That's good. Google Lens. Okay. Can you suggest any native shade plants?
Yeah, most of these are native. Like it is pink indigo is native. I think Columbine is native. I have to see what else as we go.
And do you know how tall the indigo?
It is not very
Right.
tall. Like it's like maybe 2 feet at the most. It lives more like horizontal than vertical.
Yes. Um, oak leaf hydrangea is a native. Okay. And just to answer the question, the nursery in Richmond, it's Frank's, as in the
Yeah,
name Frank.
yeah,
And
France.
I will type it in
Yeah,
Frank's nursery, but they were just wanting that.
yeah, they definitely have the Astil. I see that all the time there.
Yes. Let's see, looking for something shrub, shade, and evergreen and flowers. And you'll be going through more flowers and things,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
we'll be going through more and at the end, if she doesn't say anything, then we can ask about additional or talk about additional flowers.
Yeah,
And I think we're good. Thank
okay.
you.
All right. So this is Calathea, and again, you can get hardy Calathea, and it has the leaf texture. It's root hardy, and I have had this for probably 10, 12 years in the ground. So it came back with each freeze. It has flowers, but flowers are not, they are not very significant. The leaves are the ones which are very significant in the sense they have this nice stripes and they add some interest to the garden. So this is something I'm very excited about. I discovered this. I mean, so I tried growing this in the past, But this year, for my projects, for my clients, I buy plants from growers, not from retailers, from wholesalers. And there is one person called Heidi Sheasley, and most of the gardeners know her. She is a breeder, and she has a nursery in the north part of Houston, way north. She doesn't sell retail, it's only wholesale. So she actually this year came up with this Alstroemeria, which is Peruvian lily, and everybody I think knows this because this is the most staple cut flower. You buy any flower bunch from a florist, you will see Alstroemeria in it. It has myriad colors, myriad combinations, and it has the longest shelf vase life that I have seen. It stays in the vase for at least 2 weeks. So I always wanted to grow it. And this year, Heidi said she is growing this Inca variety, which is dwarf and it is perennial and it is for shade. So I said, okay, I'm going to get. So I got every variety she had, I got it. And next year, when I teach this class again, I'll let you know how it is doing. But this year, I did plant these plants in various amounts of shade, like part shade, little denser shade, and little more sun. So I will see which does well. The one which is getting more sun doesn't seem to be flowering that much. But the ones under the oak trees are blooming very well. So this is something, and you can order these plugs. It's difficult to grow from seeds. Believe me, I tried growing because they have to go through a process called stratification, which is cold storage. And even though the nurseries tell you that they have done this, and I bought those seeds and nothing came up. So you can buy plugs. Plugs means they will grow the plants in test tubes kind of thing, and they will sell you those rooted plants. But these are not like full grown plants. So those you can get from some nurseries. Just you can do your Google search and try this. And if you are successful, this adds so much interest to shade gardens, and you will have flowers for your flower arrangements. So it's a great plant. So ivy is it is a very easy filler. You can grow this as ground cover. You can grow this as for the spiller effect of the container. Like we have for container, we have the thriller, which is the middle one, with the most conspicuous part of the container garden. And then we have fillers, which fills the pot. And then we have spillers, which are like the weeping variety, like this high ivy or dichondria and things like that. So this can be used as a ground cover if you have problems growing grass under your trees, and if your homeowners association doesn't throw a fit, probably you can grow a ground cover like this. This actually is more beautiful than grass, and it spreads and fills the place. And dead nettle is also one of those, like it has this nice, beautiful, interesting green. I don't know why the picture is like this. Sorry about that. And it has small, tiny white flowers. So this also is a perennial, and it once it is happy in one place, it keeps growing. And this is one of my most favorite plants. So this is the leopard plant or Ligularia, and I have had this in under the oak trees for the last what, maybe 10, 12 years. And so the leaves are glossy and they are huge, and these are called tractor seat. You can see why, because the leaf is like a tractor seat. And it is a low-lying shrub, and in winter, this is one of the winter bloomers. So it starts blooming in December, like just before Christmas, it starts blooming. And look at those flowers. It's beautiful flowers. And if we are not hit by the freeze, unfortunately, we are being hit by the freeze either December last week, January 1st or 2nd week. and many of my winter bloomers are getting bad rap because of those. But now I'm trying to cover them, protect them, because I don't want to lose these flowers. Once we cross over that 1 week or 2 weeks of this hard freeze, then we are kind of out of it. So I'm trying to cover the flowers and save them for better part of late winter. So this one is one such plant. And now I'm seeing the homeowners associations planting this under the trees. So they have on the sidewalks where you have these huge trees, shade trees. Under this, they're planting them in mass. So it is beautiful because it's nice glossy green. And then when the winter comes, these are all in full bloom. And they came back from every freeze. Whether you cover it or not, they will come back. So this is one great plant for shade. So Liriope lily turf is a very common plant. It can grow in shade as well as in full sun. And again, this is very widely used by the builders. You can, if you don't want the common look of this, because you see this like a lot of places, you can use mix this with some other plants just to create. Look at the variegated leaves with the yellow and green and the light purple flowers. So use this for that spot interest, but combine it with other plants. But if you are okay with using a majority of this, then you can do it as a edging plant. So Persian shield also is a shade plant. This also did very well with the freezes. So it will come back from the freezes, and once it is established, and it is also very, just like coleus, it's also very easy to propagate. So just pinch off a top branch and throw it in water and keep changing the water in a week or two, you will see roots. So it's easy to propagate and share with friends or make more plants. You can also keep it as a house plant uh, under bright indirect light. So this color is very unusual. So try to reach out for differences in colors, differences in textures, differences in bloom times, all those things. Then you will have a really like a very attractive palette of plants. So this again is a love-hate plant because it spreads like crazy. But one interesting thing is when we had the um, home garden show from Master Gardeners, we went to one person's house. The way she used this was very nice because she had irises in her big pot, and then she used this as spiller. So that added so much interest. The most common plant, the most worrisome plant because it spreads like crazy, she was able to tame it and use it and create that interest. So just like come up with creative things. And here also they mixed it with probably marigold or I don't know, mums in the back, and that is creating some interest. So you can use the most common plants also in an interesting way. Any questions, Rachel?
Let's see. There was one, somebody asked about the plant that you mentioned, that you order. Is there a way that we can order this plant as a group through you? I think it was the one you said.
Media?
Yes.
I have to think about it because this year was the first year she was doing it. So I can reach out and see whether she's sold out or not and let them know.
Okay, and if we can get that going, we do have our list of registrants.
Okay.
And we can see what we can do.
Okay.
And I did put a few links specifically, but there was a question. I don't know if maybe you have one that you refer to, but this is actually a fantastic question. Do you know of a link or a place that lists the shade plants and when they flower at specific times so we can like better spread that through our shade gardens?
Yeah, so when Peggy did the earth kind like landscape basics, and I did the color for 4 seasons. We referred to Texas A&M database called Earth Kind Plants. And if you go to that website, you can maybe post a link for that. You can filter by like shade and bloom time and all those things, and it will give you a list.
Okay. That's great.
Yeah. And also, if you want native plants, maybe you can go to the website of Ladybird Johnson Wildlife thing, and they will also be able to give you that filter.
Okay. And I think that's it
That's it. Okay.
at this time.
Okay.
Thanks.
So shrimp plant also is a great plant. It does tolerate some sun, but if you're planting it in sun, like it will appreciate afternoon shade definitely. And shrimp plant comes in 2 colors, 2 or 3 colors, and once it is happy, yeah, it is very beautiful to look at. Because it's covered with these nice dainty flowers and flowers which don't look like flowers, and you can have this splash of color. So umbrella plant, this plant is mostly used as an aquatic plant. If you have a pond or a water, like a maybe a container, if you are doing a container water garden, this is a good plant also to do that. If you have a bog garden, rain garden, where you are trying to deal with the erosion from, if you have low-lying areas in your yard and you want to plant a rain garden there, because you don't need to get water in all the rain water will like accumulate there for the plants. So this is one plant that can be grown there. If you have an area which is always wet, this plant will be happy. It also grows in shade. So this is one of my favorite plants for part shade. It's not full shade. It can be full shade. Actually, this plant is from Japan. So this is grown as an understory plant. That means you have these huge trees, and under those they have these acres and acres of camellia plants. So this will grow in shade, but those trees are so high, so you will get dappled sun through the branches. And I have five camellias in my front yard. And it once they like the place, they will bless you for many, many, many years with flowers. And the other interesting thing about camellias is they are winter bloomers. So there's Camellia shashanka and Camellia japonica. There are the two main varieties, and japonica is more finicky, and it needs more shade than shashanka. So sasanka. So you try to create that microclimate for these plants, and they're very slow growers. They're almost evergreen. Even through the freezes, they were evergreen. And the sasankas start blooming in November, October, November, and they bloom until March, April. And the japonicas start blooming from January, February until April, May. So you have these beautiful flowers which look like peonies. We can't grow peonies. You can grow with great difficulty, maybe, but they look very much like peonies. And apparently there are some fragrant camellias which I haven't gotten my hands on yet, but they are very beautiful to look at, and they last a few days on the plant. So last year, I had to protect because the plants were full of buds. I didn't want to lose the buds. When they projected the freeze, I did cover the buds and I did manage to get flowers after the freeze is over. So this is one plant that we all should plant because one, it is evergreen, and two, it has beautiful flowers, and three, it'll grow for many years. So this is again my front yard. So this has a mix of things here. So the back one is called waterfall begonia, and you can see the leaf. The leaf is so interesting. It's a huge leaf, and it has flowers. It has nice white flowers that pop up during the year. But most of the interest is in the leaves, and it multiplies. So you just plant a few plants, and it slowly spreads, and in front of it I have birds of paradise. So bird of paradise has suffered through the freeze, but it came back. Last year I got a couple of flowers, so I think it will do well, much better in full sun or full morning sun and a little bit of afternoon shade. But right now it's under the oak trees. It's still bloomed, maybe not as much as if it gets more sun. So on the right, it is Alternanthera, the green with the pink. In Alternanthera, there are so many varieties. It's a Texas superstar plant. That means it does very well anywhere you put it. And it's easy to add interest with these filler plants. Again, it is a great addition to any containers as well. So this is a plant that if you want, this is a actually great ground cover because it spreads, it blooms, and it comes back after freeze. If you have in like where you're struggling to grow grass, this is another option. But also it spreads through nodes. So each stem spreads to the next bed. So you have to control it. If you can do that, this is a great one to have. If not, this is a big pest, but it is a perennial and it grows under shade. So if you have just if you can't do anything under the oak trees, and if you just want to have a ground cover, this is one option. So any questions so far?
There were questions regarding the camellias.
Okay.
So, and you might have to do this, but several people asked the camellias that you have that you posted, and can you spell the names for them? Or can we go back? Yeah. If you spell them, I can type them in.
Oh,
you know them.
Okay.
If not, we can come back to that.
Yeah. Let me come back to that. I know the names, but it's not coming to me right away.
Okay, no problem. And then I did answer, but just to ask you, is it true that birds of paradise have invasive roots?
That's not my experience. I have had them for a few years now. I have two of them, and I have them in my clients' gardens also. So what do they mean by invasive roots? Are they like saying that?
Like if they're bad near like pipes and things, but it's actually
Oh,
the opposite. They're actually non-invasive and they're perfect for,
yeah,
like you said, not your
yeah,
experience. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
I just wanted to verify that with you.
Okay, yeah. And also bird of paradise, if you can give it its space, it can be a great specimen plant. That means if you, because it'll grow big eventually. And if you give that space right now, since my plants are under the trees, they're not growing that fast, but you put them in sun, they will really grow big. It's like a big fountain. So they need that space, and you don't need to plant anything around it because that itself is like gets all the attention.
Excellent. Okay, that's all the questions I see so far.
Okay.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay.
Another one just popped up. Do you fertilize on a sweetheart schedule for shade plants?
No, I don't. So I fertilize in the beginning of the season, like when I first get like winter cleaning done, and then the spring, if I have to move the plants anywhere or clean up the plants and all that. And just before I mulch, once I'm done with all my cleanup and planting and everything, just before I mulch, I fertilize in spring. And again, I fertilize in fall. That's it.
Okay. Can
The
I
shade,
add oh, sorry, go ahead, Sima, sorry.
no, only the shade plants. There are various schedules for the other plants. But for the shade plants, I fertilize them just twice a year.
Sounds good. Um, if I can just add a comment, I don't know if this helps anybody, but as far as fertilizing goes and the extreme Texas heat that we have in the hundreds, I do find that I fertilize once a week with fish emulsion and seaweed, a mixture of fish emulsion and seaweed. On the foliar parts of the plant, I do a foliar fertilization, and that seems to make my plants way stronger to deal with the heat and staying green
Mm-hmm.
and not being as crunchy and browned and effective. So I know it's a lot, but even if you do it once every few weeks, every bit that you foliar spray of both the seaweed and the fish emulsion will, I guarantee you, it is instantly absorbed and you will see a huge difference in those plants for fertilization. Just a little idea there.
Yeah.
Another question, Peruvian lily. Do you have any suggestions on where to get a Peruvian lily?
Like I said, I got it from the grower and she got it from the breeder. So maybe they can check Burpees. It's an online catalog nursery. It's let me type it up, because I got something called, oh, okay. Okay. I got something called Lysianthus from Burpees this year. Again, I got the plugs from them. Lysianthus also is like Peruvian Alstroemeria, which is tough to grow from seed. So I got the plants. So Burpees may have. It's one of those nurseries that has specialized plants.
And since most of the plants that you recommended are native, does that mean they are mostly drought tolerant and have low
Yeah,
water needs?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Suma.
Okay. Okay. So the other things you can do in shade garden, if you really can't grow anything, you can do with hardscaping. So you can use rocks, mulch, like pebbles, and this is my pot for actually the duck. The duck comes and lays her eggs 3, 4 times a year in that pot. And this is under the oak tree, and there is a fountain there. And you can see my ferns, my begonias, and the shrimp plant, and all those things, and the agapanthus. So this is one way to create interest. You can put a statue, or you can put a bench. So there are various things you can do. And if you look at behind, if you look at near the window, I have 2 pots in front of my house, which do not get direct sun. So they get light but not sun. So I have some plants that are thriving there. So there are various ways to create interest. Again, like I tried a lot to grow something at this. This is the entrance to my house, and the walkway that leads to the front door. And I tried many times to grow something here, and nothing worked. So finally, I gave up and I did the Mexican beach pebbles, and I had a boulder, and then I put the evergreen thing plant behind that. And the ground cover you see there, I think it is called um, uh, chameleon plant. So because it changes colors, if the sun hits it, it becomes more pink. If not, it stays with that light green variegation. So it is like growing like a ground cover in my front yard on both sides. It is not very aggressive, but it does spread. So this is what I came up with for now. I may change it down the line, but some ideas for you. That's it. Okay. All right. So any other questions? You can unmute yourself and you can ask if you have any other questions.
There is a question. Hold on. What plant do you recommend planting under a magnolia tree?
So magnolia tree depends on how tall it is, and magnolia can have either it can have a canopy or it can be like a columnar. So it depends on which type of magnolia they have. If it is southern magnolia and if it has a huge canopy, you can go with any of these plants. If it has like shade, if it is a shade magnolia.
Okay. And I'm sorry, did you say that you were ready for open questions or are you still going?
Yeah.
Okay, so like they can unmute, you're fine
Yeah,
with
they
it?
can unmute and ask questions. Yes.
Okay, so if anybody would like to unmute themselves and ask Suma a question, feel free to do so now.
Or names of fertilizers. So I said I use Osmocote or Microlife or Epsoma. And like you said, we can do the fish emulsion and seaweed, but I don't do it for my shade. I do it for my tropicals mostly and the plants that are in full sun.
I have my shade garden, all my color mostly comes from foliage, obviously.
Yeah.
And the heuchera and heucherellas are my favorite.
Yeah.
And
Beautiful plant.
those are, it's like my weakness anytime I see one. But they especially like the fish emulsion and not like regular fertilizer. So I don't give them
Okay.
anything but
Okay.
the compost and fish and seaweed emulsion. And they'll just stand straight up tall and shine.
Nice.
So I do use those on my shade plants, but
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how well I started this last year with the fish and seaweed fertilizer before the 100-degree heat. And it was just night and day how my plants reacted. And it's immediate. I feel like I spray it. I'll put it in a sprayer. So I have a 2-gallon sprayer
Yeah.
and I just spray it with the little wand all over. And just you wake up the next morning and everything is just standing at attention and green
Yeah.
and happy.
Yeah. I think I'll start doing it.
Highly
Suma,
recommend.
Yeah.
I have two window boxes that when we first moved into this house, I was able to plant geraniums in them and they grew beautifully.
Yeah.
Have grown so much now that the geraniums are not doing well. And I want to put something in those window boxes that will survive the summer. Now, I've gotten your recommendations that, do you think impatiens and begonias will do well in them?
You saw, let me see. Okay. Where is the window box? Okay.
Palladiums?
So this is a window box and they did caladiums and dichondria, which is the silver falls, and some coleus. So this is all foliage. There's no flowers in this.
Right.
And this is an option.
Okay. But you don't think impatiens, you don't think will do well?
Impatiens will do well, but you need to add something else to create more interest because, or you can do impatiens of different heights.
Right,
Yeah,
okay. All right, thank you.
yeah, sure, of course.
Suma, regarding your camellias, how do you keep them healthy? Because I know several people have said they die on them. Is there anything special you do?
Yeah, so okay, the white camellia, let me go back to camellia. Now I remembered the name. Okay. So the white camellia is called seafoam.
You want me to spell that?
Yeah,
if you-
yeah, I can type it out also.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, this is okay, let me type it up. Okay. Yeah, so the camellias, I have had them for many, many years. I think like you have to experiment with the placement. So these, like I said, japonicas need more shade and sasankas can take more sun. So I have sasankas in the front of the bed where this is a north facing yard. So in the afternoon, late afternoon, evening, I get more sun, more direct sun, and the sasankas do fine. And they still are, all five of them are evergreen. And these, the japonicas, the sea foam, and this, the pink one, they are in the back, like they are closer to the house. So they are more protected and they have more, a little bit more shade than the sasankas. So I fertilize them in the beginning of the year with the acidic fertilizer, like the fertilizer we use for azaleas, roses, and things like that. And I also add some Epsom salt once in a while. So that's the only thing I do. And then I think once they find their happy place, they live longer.
Are they acid loving, Suma?
Yes, they are acid loving. Yes.
We have another question where looking for a shrub that is evergreen, flowers, and love shade.
That is evergreen flowers. Okay, this is everybody's wish list.
Yes.
Yeah, so one such plant I just talked about was Ligularia, the tractor seed plant. So that is evergreen unless there is deep freeze, and flowers and love shade. Also camellias, they're definitely evergreen, and they bloom and they love shade.
I am posting in the comments a list of references that Suma referred to earlier when we were talking about lists of shade plants, and she referred to previous classes that we did with Peggy and Suma. And so I'm listing those references right now that she had mentioned earlier from, again, previous classes that we had. Just FYI.
Yeah, I did write a blog on camellias on my website. So if people are interested, that gives a comprehensive information.
I would love that too if you want to type your blog in. leopard plant, Suma. Someone has it in a pot and wants to plant it in the ground. How should I prepare the soil?
Totally plant it in the ground. Yeah, so it's not very finicky. The leopard plant, it survives in most of the common soils. Just make sure that there is good drainage, means it's not like hard, compacted clay. So if you are building a raised bed, that's enough. You don't need to do anything else.
Rochelle,
Sorry?
Rochelle, a question, please.
Yeah.
The resources that you provided in the comment sections here, how do we download?
You can actually just copy and paste those if you
Oh.
like, but they will also all be sent to you with the recording of this video within a week. So
Thank you.
anybody who is registered for this class will receive a link for the video that you've just seen, along with all the resources that Suma has referenced or that we've put in the chat.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Yeah, sure. I sincerely apologize because I forgot to add the survey slide. And this you all will get the survey link with your email. And we really appreciate if you can fill the survey, because that way you can tell us what subjects, what topics interest you, and how we are doing, and what you like to see. And we can keep this going.
Yes, you may share the link to the video.
Thank you so much, Sumaji. This has been excellent, and you have been educating us and enriching us with your knowledge. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, any last questions for Suma?
Hello,
Yes.
where can I get Persian shield plants?
Persian shield you can find in most of the nurseries. If you want, in Sugarland they have the what is this, the new nursery on Route 19, Callaway's. You can get it there, but definitely Enchanted will have it. Go to their shade section, they will have it.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Oh.
So Brenda is asking if she should wait till fall to plant anything in the shade garden. Shade garden may be more forgiving because it has protection built in if you want to plant it now, but make sure you have water. Yeah, Cornelius, thank you. Cheryl.
Okay.
All
Well,
right.
as Suma mentioned, again, we will be sending out a link for our survey. Please remember to fill that out. It really does help us as we prepare for our classes in our next session. We have one last session on trees. If you would like to sign up through the Fort Bend Gardner Landscape Success Program. Also, we will send you a link of this recording and all the resources within a week's time. So thank you for everybody who has joined us today. And thank you, Suma, always a wealth of knowledge, my favorite gardener. So we can stop the recording, Nancy.